From Universal Studios Hollywood, welcome to Home and Family.
Brighten up your day, the Home and Family way.
With us today, very excited about this next guest because it's going to spark some wonderful conversation. Betsy Braun is here, and she's going to give us some tips on how to brat-proof our children. This is a growing problem, the brattiness?
It's always been a problem.
Yeah.
This is nothing new. There have always been brats. It depends on your kids. And I'm going to give you some tips to talk about how we can fix
And
that.
some scenarios of which we're going to put to the test of some moms here on the show and how they would handle it.
I'll earn my keep.
Oh, boy.
And how to keep your mouth shut when other kids are bratting. You just want to say something. I wonder who that could be.
Wonder who that
Put it
could
in a
be.
lockbox and put it right there. It's hard to hold your tongue.
We're coming back. Betsy Braun is going to be here.
Coming up, I'm going to tell you why your kids are bratty and what you're going to do about it.
Test those things out.
All right.
Be well.
Bye. Bye, Betsy. Bye.
See, now, there is a child who is not bratty.
It's not a brat at all.
Everybody, you know, everyone seems to know one child that is a brat. Could be in the neighborhood, could be the kid next door, could be even your own child or your co-host. Referring to me, I can be a little bit bratty sometimes. But we're talking about how do you brat-proof your child? And helping us out with that is child development and behavior specialist Betsy Braun, who is here. You are an expert in this, not because you're a mother of 3, not because you've been a teacher, but because you are a behavior specialist in this. Where does sort of bratty behavior come from?
Well, bratty behavior is kind of developmental. I would say all children at some point or another, including Benjamin, go through some bratty stuff. Because as kids grow up, one of the ways that they grow up, it's a developmental thing, and one of the ways that they grow up is by trying out behaviors, different behaviors. That's how they figure out what they're supposed to do and what they're not supposed to do. So sometimes what looks like brattiness to you is really just a kid trying to figure out where does it start, where does it stop, how far can I get, is this gonna work, will this always work, this worked last week, will it work today?
So are they testing their boundaries?
Yes.
Is
That's
that
what
sometimes?
Yeah. And so the behavior, where does the bratty behavior come from when they're testing what it is that they can do?
Well, let me explain what I think bratty means, okay? I wrote a book called You're Not the Boss of Me, and the subtitle of the book is Brat-Proofing Your 4 to 12-Year-Old Kid. Oh. Wouldn't it be great if we could really brat-proof our kids?
Yes.
But because it's a part of development, sorry, no can do. But I can tell you what it's about and what we can do about it, because when kids are being bratty, yes, they are testing their boundaries and their limits, but they're trying to figure out what their relationship is with you and where you stop and where I begin. And with little bitty guys, it's not really bratty because they really don't know a whole lot. They got to try all this stuff
If they would just listen to me, though.
Yeah.
If they would just listen, I could tell them when they're being bratty.
Isn't that amazing?
But their behavior makes us, well, I don't know, it made me anxious all the time when they would not listen to me or they would not do the way I would suggest that they do it. It made me feel like I was a bad parent and I would get mad. I would actually get angry.
Well, you know, you just said something really important, which is this is more about parents than it is about kids. This is about parenting, because I can promise you that when you got angry, you got more tense. That made your child get more tense. Yes. And then this thing went on between you. We have in our brains this really interesting thing. They're called mirror neurons. It's like when I yawn, you yawn.
Yeah.
Mirror neurons. Okay, so when you get angry or you get anxious or you get tense, your kid's gonna get angry and tense. And you know, you raise it, he raises it, you raise it, it goes up and up and up, and pretty soon you've got like explosion time. So this is about you maintaining your calm and not taking it personally and backing off a little bit and letting your child be who he needs to be before you impose whatever feelings you're having on your child.
Yeah.
But I always feel that, I don't know about any of you, but I always feel that what I'm doing is correct, and what they're doing is not. And it just, Mark is really brilliant at that. He can step back and look back and say, okay, I need to pick and choose my battles, but I always have to be right. Like, you've got to do it my way, and I don't know how to back off. I probably did a huge disservice to my children by doing that.
not in 100 years am I going to tell you you did a huge disservice. You're the hostess on the
Oh,
show.
no, you can't. No, you can, because, you know, I mean, I hope that I'm
Great,
speaking...
perpetuate it. Just keep it going.
I'm just being honest. You know, I probably did a lot of things because I needed to be right. I needed to be heard.
Christina, by the way, we all did.
Yeah.
We all, you know, your first child is your practice child, and you have a whole gaggle of them.
I
right?
do. I have a lot of practice.
So probably you did much better when you got down to the
last one?
Last
Yeah,
ones, right?
yeah.
Because those kids kind of raise themselves like a self-basting turkey, kind of.
Yeah.
But the reality is, with kids who are bratty, they're being bratty for a reason. Sometimes kids are bratty because of development. Sometimes they're bratty because of something that's happened with you. Sometimes they're bratty because of something that happened in school. But it's really important that parents remember a condition that I call lousy local conditions. LLC. And what that means is that sometimes the environment is actually going to sabotage your child's ability to be his best self. Too many birthday parties, too many errands, missed dinner, didn't sleep, didn't have a nap, bad relationship thing with friends at school, teacher who was crabby. And so sometimes their bratty behavior isn't really bratty behavior.
Well, how do we handle our children when they are disrespectful to us and to others? How do we handle that?
The dreaded disrespect.
Yeah.
There's every parent in the whole world wants to make sure that his child grows up to be a respectful person. But they're not born being respectful. The factory-equipped model child does not know what that means.
Yeah, the
So when
default is
they're-
not set at that.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
But so when they're very little, we begin to talk to them about that, because they may just say something like, "No, mommy, you do it," a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old, and that's when we say, you know, it's
My
not.
daughter does that. She's famous for doing that. No, mommy, you do it. And
Yeah.
everything's no, you do it. I don't want to do it. So how do you deal with that even?
One of the reasons I named my book "You're Not the Boss of Me," by the way.
I understood it when you said it. Oh yeah.
So that respect thing, exactly what you're referring to, is something they have to learn to do. One of the things I will say to children who are already in school is, you know, would you talk to your teacher that way? And even a 3-year-old gets that who's in school, and they say, no, well, you know, the same thing that you don't say to your teacher, it's not okay to say that to mommy. And we begin to teach them what's okay and what's not okay.
Sure.
But as they get older and more fierce and kind of more gutsy,
And
they're
teenagers.
exactly where I'm going with
Yeah.
those teens, even tweens, you're going to get a lot of disrespect because they're kind of poking at you. They're trying to figure out the same thing they were when they were 2 and 3, what works and what doesn't work.
Why do they do that when they're like at other people's houses or at school? And then when they're in your home, they're bratty and disrespectful. But when they're at other people's house, they call you, go, oh my gosh, I love your child, he's so good. And it's like, who? What? Who are you talking about?
Isn't that amazing? Is that my child?
Yeah, what is
Well,
that?
I'm so glad you brought that up, because what I wanted to explain to you is that most kids are not bratty when they're out in the world. Most kids save their worst behavior for the people whose love they trust the most.
And when we come back, we're going to look at those real life scenarios. We're going to put some of our family and friends here to the test and see how they would handle those circumstances when we come right back. All right, we are back with author Betsy Braun, and we're talking about some real life scenarios. By the way, we were discussing about a child not listening. And
Yeah.
you say what?
Well, I mean, what a joke. He's not listening. Is his hearing fine? I'm
Yeah.
sure he's listening. You got to remember, parents say he's not listening, but what he's doing is he's not being obedient. He's not minding you. He has a choice. He is choosing not to do what you want him to do. So remember, this is not a question of listening. Keep that in mind.
Well, I know, because I want to go, why aren't you listening to me? Oh, he's listening. We want to do a couple of scenarios.
Okay.
We want to throw these out, and I'll have some family members here jump in and see what they would do. And then you if you would mind offering your response to that. Here's a scenario. You're at a toy store. Your child wants everything. You say no, and your child throws a tantrum. What do you do? Tanya, that sound from you wanted to go with that one?
Well, yeah, because I go through that. She's 3, and so she's all into toys. The first thing that I do is I try to, first of all, calm her down and reason with her. If that doesn't work, I'm kind of the disciplinarian in the family. I'll take her up and take her home. Like I'll just pick her up and we are home, and she gets a timeout when we get home.
All right.
And I am relentless with it.
All right.
Okay,
go
so
to the-
that's one way to handle it.
Yeah.
I would say, first of all, why are you taking a child to a toy store? You're setting her up to fail, number one. Number two, before you go in the toy store, you say to the kid, we're going in the store, and I'm buying one present, and I'm buying it for cousin Simon. And that's all we're buying today. You can show me all the things that you like, and we'll look at them, but we're not buying them. And then you're in the store. Now you've set her up to be successful, okay? So you're in the store and she looks at the lawyer Barbie or whatever, and she really, really wants that one, and you say, you know, remember, we're only buying cousin Simon a present. Tell you what, I'm gonna write that down on my list, and when it's time for you to get a present, maybe at Christmas, maybe at your birthday, then we'll take this list out and we'll remember, you want the lawyer Barbie.
Yeah, and if I reason with her and I come up with something that she can relate to, that's
What if
great.
I caution
It
you about
kind
one
of-
thing? Reasoning with a 3-year-old, I'm sure your kids are gifted. We all live in Los Angeles.
I mean, what it is you're
goes to
saying.
gifted
But
school here.
a lot of
Everybody.
joy comes, though, of going to the toy store with your child. So can you just say to your child, before you go, we're going to go to the toy store today, and you can pick one
one
toy? And then, because it's fun bringing
That's
your
what I
kid.
If
do.
that's what you're doing,
Yeah, then
but
explain
That's
before
usually
you
what
go.
I'm doing. I mean,
yeah.
it happens in grocery stores, though,
The
too.
kid doesn't have a cousin Simon. What-
There's no cousin Simon.
Here's the next one. You're out to dinner with friends and family. Your child starts whining. What do you do?
Oh, take them out. Take them out.
I
This
take
is
them
it,
out.
Christina?
I take them out
I
every
pick
time.
them up and take
Yeah.
them out.
Too.
Says if you can't sit still or you can't be quiet, we're going home.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many dinners I've missed.
Yeah.
'Cause
Really?
I just think it interrupts
All right.
the
Let's see.
people eating.
Let's see what we should
I
do.
don't like it when people have kids that are running around.
According to Betsy. What
I was just going to say, I love children, so I really love them a lot, but not if I'm trying to have a quiet dinner. So I would repeat the same thing that we said before. Before you go to dinner, you let your child know exactly what the expectations are. We're going to dinner, your tushy's going to stay in the chair, we use a quiet voice, and if that happens, we state the positive, you can stay. If it doesn't happen, you will not go outside, you will go home. I often advise parents to take 2 cars to a restaurant so that the child can leave with a parent with whom he doesn't want to be. He wants to
Right.
be with mommy, daddy takes him home.
All right.
Can I add something to that? You know what my wife does, and I'd like an approval on this, is she brings phenomenal distractions when we go to a restaurant with the kids.
Like toys or
A coloring book, something small, something to entertain the kid, because their attention span is so short.
Yeah, and I sort
do
of
that.
agree with that,
I don't-
because they're
I
not
do
going to have
that.
grown-up conversations
Yeah.
with you. But what's your thoughts on that?
Well, if you're going to a child-friendly restaurant, I think that's fine. Again, I'm sorry to sound like a fuddy-duddy, but I don't understand why we're taking children to adult restaurants where they need to be quiet. I'd rather have you take them to someplace. And of course, bringing something for them to do is a great idea, so I agree.
Would you suggest, if you're going to do that adult restaurant, to keep it a shorter time? Because, you know, adults, you can have a 2-hour meal sitting there.
I would suggest bread and butter and leave.
Maybe a television and a nanny as well.
We want our kids to be successful,
Successful.
and I
And-
always suggest set your kid up to be successful so you can leave and say, look at what a great time we had.
Well, in this case,
Yeah, that's
you buy a child a toy, a gift, or whatnot, and the 2 children are fighting over that toy. And you've got siblings. It's mine.
Yeah, that's
mine.
happening in my
You
house.
run into that?
Right. Last week, I'm laughing because I walked in. It was their first real fight, and they were doing this, like hitting each other with their hands over the remote control.
Well, you have
And-
to remember a couple of things. Children see their possessions kind of as extensions of themselves. And also, young children, your youngest child, there's toddler property laws.
Right.
He sees it, he wants it, he's thinking about playing with it, it's mine. I played with it yesterday, it's mine. I might play with it tomorrow, it's mine. So this is tricky business.
Sure.
I think that children deserve to own things, and I had triplets, and everything in my family, believe it or not, almost everything had a kid's initial on the back. So that you could say, look, this belongs to you, Ben. This is your toy, Lucas. You need to find something else. This belongs to you, Ben. You have the problem of 2 different ages with one who gets that
What about time
and one who
limits? Like
doesn't.
you get it for 5 minutes, then you get it for 5 minutes, and they just keep switching.
Well, it depends on to whom it belongs.
Right.
If it belongs to the 3-year-old and you're saying, oh, give it a chance, he's only 1, let him have it, and then your child's just going to resent that
Well,
1-year-old.
there's a remote control. It belongs to you guys.
To
So
me,
how do
right.
yeah?
They
So
pretend
how
it's
do
the
you?
phone.
How about this? Well, then you buy him a phone, a fake
Mark,
phone.
how about we answer the question about respect? I didn't
I have
answer.
a teenager, and
Yeah.
respect is an
we were
issue.
talking about respect.
And
yeah.
I
how
just
do
want to
you-
give you an idea for how to handle that,
Sure,
okay? Because most
perfect.
parents hear their kid be disrespectful. You say, clean up your room, and your 16-year-old says, no, you clean up your room. And it's like, and steam comes out of your ears. The best response to that is to pause and say nothing. Say nothing.
Silence.
I'm assuming you have all developed what I call the stink eye, right?
Oh, yeah.
Which you only use on few occasions. You give your child the stink eye, and you turn around and you walk out. Because we do not want to engage or let a child know that he's going to get anything by using that tone.
Interesting.
And then a half hour later, you can go into his room and say, okay, what was that?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you're both down at a calmer level.
Sure.
But in the moment, disengage. I want to stamp it on the kid's forehead so when you look at him, you'll remember, disengage.
Disengage.
Very
When they're
to do
being
that,
disrespectful.
too, sometimes.
It's about parenting, remember?
You're right. You're
I have
right.
so many
And you know,
questions.
and anger is best served up cold.
Oh, I love that.
I like that. I thought
Can
it was
I
a
quote you?
cookbook you wrote, not a parenting book. More information from Betsy on Brett Proofing Your Child. Her books are available wherever books are sold. Visit her website, by the way, Betsy Brown, Braun.com. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. Well, listen, a house is not a home until there's a family in it. With a family is not a family without children, and raising children can drive you crazy if you don't have good advice.
going right there.
So I'm going to Betsy for a final tip.
Okay, my final tip is remembering that you, dear parents, are the most important thing in your young child's life. And you need to recognize that, and you need to remember to spend special time with each child in your family. Not with the other children, not with the spouse. Each parent spends some amount of time alone with that child, because when he feels significant in your life, it activates in the child a desire to please you, a desire to be good. So make that connectedness happen. Make your child feel significant.
Perfect.
I
good
think
advice.
yeah, I like that.
Really good.
That's good. Very nice.
Perfect.